Hello there, welcome to this video, read sensors and push values to ThingWorx platform. In this video, first we're going to see the circuit setup, then I'm going to walk you through the ThingWorx thing and properties which we have created, and then I'm going to take you to the code which we're going to use to read the sensors and to push the values, and then finally we will actually run the code and push the sensor values to the platform, and we will of course confirm the same. All right, now let's get started with the circuit setup. Now as you can see, node MCU, which is right about here, and you have the LDR sensor and the DHT sensor. Now if you want to know how to work with these two sensors, please check out my sensors video for the same. I'm going to quickly tell you what's happening here. The LDR's value, which is read from the voltage dividing point, goes to the only analog pin on the node MCU, which is A0. The one end of LDR goes to 3 volts, the other end goes to the dividing point, one point of the resistor, and the other point of the resistor goes to the ground. Now similarly with the DHT, the way you're seeing it, the pin on the right hand side is 1 and the pin on the left hand side is 4. So it has 4 pins. So from the right hand side, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the first pin goes to 3 volts. The second pin goes to here pin number 6, which is GPIO 12. So in Adafruit, you will have to see how the pin number works out. I think it is the same as the GPIO pins, because the Adafruit pins are the same as the GPIO pins. But in Node MCU, you need to refer to the GPIO pins and make sure you're pointing to the right pin. Now we need to pull up on the pin 2. So via a 10K resistor, you're going to connect it to 3 volts again. Alright, finally pin number 3 is empty and pin number 4 goes to ground. I know it's a little bit challenging to grasp all this information at once, so I have this slide for you, and of course if you go through the videos on how to use these two sensors, then it'll make more sense and it'll be more easy to put it together. So these are the connections which we have done here on the board. All right, perfect. Now let's go to the platform and take a look at the thing and the properties which we're going to use. The first is things. So the thing which I'm going to be using is the same which we created together, which is the ENV strobe. As you can see here, I'm inside the thing, and as you can see the properties as we created earlier: temperature, humidity and light. Currently the code is running and you see that the values are being updated. Perfect. Now let's go to the code and take a look at how the code looks like. Now this is the code. We've already gone through majority of this code already, but I'm going to take you through the changes from the last time. Alright, perfect. In the initialization area, we're going to include another library called dht.h. This is to read your humidity and temperature from the DHT sensor. This is the library provided by the manufacturer for you to be able to read the values. We're defining pin and I am pointing the pin to 12. And this library can support multiple sensors, and here we are defining the type of sensor to DHT22. The other things remain the same, and if you come down and you can see that I have added another property called property 3, and this is to carry the value for the light property. Okay, and here we are initializing the DHT library and passing the arguments, and then in the void setup it's the same. We are going to initialize the Wi-Fi. Additionally, we're also calling the dht.begin. In the void loop is exactly the same thing as we saw last time. And before we actually pass the values, what we are doing is, once we are connected to Wi-Fi, we are first getting the values of the humidity and temperature from the DHT library. So the DHT library is actually reading the values from the sensors, and it is passing to these values float H and float T. So H and T have humidity and temperature respectively. We are checking for any errors, and then we are printing these values to the serial for you to debug. Next, we are reading the sensor value of the LDR, and we are passing it to the variable called sensor value. So this is basically an analog read and you're reading on the A0 pin. Perfect. Now you also want to print this to the serial for debugging. Give it a 500 millisecond delay for it to be stable. Then the rest of the things are the same. As you can come down and see, what we're going to do this time is we're going to be passing 3 put statements instead of 2 like last time. We're going to be passing 3 put statements. So in each statement, the payload, like you see here, the first payload talks about the first property, which is temperature, and the corresponding value. So if you go back on top, the value of T is actually temperature and the value of T is in float. So float doesn't go very well with character. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the value of float to string by using the string function. And then I'm going to pass this D as a payload. Then of course we need to build the HTTP request using REST and push the put call. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the other 2 properties as well. So we're going to do the same for humidity and we're going to do the same for light. And this is how the code looks like. So if you want to use this code, what you have got to do is leave everything as what it was last time and make sure that all of these 3 things match. And apart from that, you need to make sure that your thing name is env strobe and make sure that you are using the same names as properties. So this is a little bit tricky, so I advise that use exactly the same as you see here so that you don't have to touch the other part of the code. Alright, now just for your sake, I'm going to run this again as the code is already running, but let's do it again and see how it looks like. So I'm gonna hit compile and load. It started to compile. Since it's already compiled, it might take a little bit less time. So it's loading the code, everything looks good, the compiling went okay, and now it's writing it to the Node MCU. Okay, everything looks good, so I'm going to open the serial and it's trying to connect and it's sending the message to the server and everything is good. There is no response back other than a 200. Now first thing is everything is being printed to the serial, so let's go back to the right and let's see the values. For humidity is 64, for temperature is 31, and for light is actually 550. It's not printing properly. You may want to leave a space and maybe even print it in the next line to make it clear. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pass these values into the payload. So temperature is 31, humidity 64, light is 550. So it looks good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the platform and confirm these values. The latest values are 31, 64 and 552. So 31, 64, 552. So there you go. You know now how to read the sensor values from the LDR and DHT. You know how to massage those values. You know how to push those values to the ThingWorx platform corresponding to their properties. This is great job. If you can do this, kudos to you and congratulations, you've come quite a distance. After this, you're going to be developing on the information you already learned. Now whatever you've done so far is extremely important because this is the pipeline of connectivity from your edge device to the platform. In the next video, we're going to be building an app on ThingWorx, and then we're going to be using these values to build a dashboard.